closing this email account.
That's fair.
You'll leave a little bit so I can try them all.
Hmm?
You'll leave a little bit so I can try them all.
Rach, how are you? You good?
Yeah, just, working, doing stuff. How you guys doing?
Good. It's great to see you.
No, I miss your face.
I miss you too. Oh my god.
Everyone.
It's been way too long.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
How's Pino?
Oh, he's the best good boy in the world, obviously.
Obviously. I mean, that's the answer I expected for sure.
Yeah. Ben the other day was like saying goodbye to me when he was work. He's like, "Bye, my sweet prince." He's like, "Bye, Rachel." Like, okay.
That suits so well.
Yeah.
Sweet prince.
Oh, sweet prince.
Oh, the Moscow Filero is delicious. Oh, I didn't know how delicious that was.
I feel like we poured this with the Oxley at some point.
I think so too, Rachel. Like,
By the way, when Brad and Kristen and I got limpets, and when it's nice out, we can grill them.
I have like a distinct memory of like Jules was being like, "God, nobody's selling the Moscow Filero."
I remember it coming on the
Seems
list.
unlikely of her. That doesn't seem like Jules.
God, work harder. It's my shrill Jules impression.
Rach, I'm going to mute you and say goodbye.
Mute me,
Um,
bye.
Everyone ready? Everyone excited?
Yeah.
Have some fun?
So excited. Yes.
I have a huge chunk of feta and I'm literally just going to keep eating it throughout the session because it's delicious.
A bean. I like to think it's one of my favorite cheese, but apparently I don't know anything about feta.
Love me some feta. Let's let the troops trundle in. Hope everyone's ready for the biggest Retsina tasting this side of the Aegean.
That's
I am.
tasting 3, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
Retsina and Cipro.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's good. I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't like it, but that's fine.
You'll give this Retsina a seat at the table, right?
Always. It's delicious Retsina. It's very drinkable Retsina, which all things considered, the last Retsina I had is like less than $6 at the LCBO.
Oh, I know the bottle.
Great.
That's a experiment in a very intense, strange wine. Hello, everyone. Anne, hi, Andrew, Ash. Oh, look, all these people. Kristen's here. The two Lauras. Not 9 to 5. This is wonderful. Everyone's here now. We should just get started.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine Coach at Home. I'm Nick, sommelier at Peter Pan. I'm here today to talk Greek wines, more specifically white wines. I wanted to do a Greek wine tasting and I realized I had 9 Greek wines and I was like, I should split this up. I think a 9 wine tasting event would be a little, on a Tuesday, could be a little too much. So we split them up. We got white wines this week, next week, red wines, which is going to be just as fun. But I, as always, can never do it alone. So I've got 2 return guests to Wine Coach. It's a party when we're all together, and today is no exception. First off, one of my favorite people in the world, Emily McLean, welcome. How are you today? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back. Excited to be welcomed back. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Our
And
party
always,
and wine.
yeah, exactly. And always love, love, love to always hear your presence is a marvel and your experience is great. Krista Oben, thanks for being here. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so excited that you let me and Emily back on here.
I
And
was,
together.
yeah. It's great. This is the perfect lineup for us. After canned wine, which was both a distant memory but a lovely one. I thought this was nice to have the team at the party reunited. It's going to be great. And we're tasting some great wines. And always our secret silent psalm in the background. She's returned behind the curtain after last week. Rachel's in the chat, hanging out, you know, doing some fun things, answering all your very specific questions about Greek wine. I hope that you challenge her and push her to her, you know, her nerdy wine limit.
Rachel.
Krista, Emily, why do you like drinking Greek wine? I guess let's just start. Let's like go bang straight into the conversation. Like, what excites you about Greek wine? Anyone? Emily, I'm going to start with Emily.
Okay, I was going to let Krista go first if she wanted to. I'm happy to hop in. I mean, many things. I've not had the pleasure of visiting Greece. I'd love to go. It's high on the list, of course, for many reasons. I really love, if we're speaking about white wine specifically, like just that like overall super like crisp, saline quality to the wines that they seem to carry throughout. That's like a common denominator for Greek white wines for me, if I can kind of like, but there's so much more to that. I love the varying styles that you can find within Greece itself. And just like that food friendly or not needing food approach to them. Like I just think that they're overall like, I love experimenting with Greek wines, and I hope that answers your question.
Krista, I imagine you've probably had like the full Greek wine experience, probably going from not knowing a lot about it to exploring it to having to master it when you were at Byblos to visiting Greece. Like, explain that journey to us.
I went through a real journey of Greek wine in the last 5 or 6 years of knowing a couple of the like crisp and easy wines that we find on our shelves here, to working at Byblos, where all of a sudden I was thrown into wines from like Greece and Lebanon and places like that, with like a real deep history, which is really pretty thrilling, kind of one of the cradles of wine civilization. And just the food friendliness of these wines really dazzled me when I started drinking more and more of them. And the bang for your buck that you can get in Greek wine is just crazy. Like if you buy the most expensive Greek wine that you can find on our market, it can, knock the socks out of like a mediocre Burgundy. Not to trash Burgundy, just to like big up like a great Greek wines. I love an underdog. The grapes are hard to pronounce sometimes, and I feel like they don't get enough. I don't think they get enough representation in our market.
Yeah, definitely. I was saying today, like I always like forget about Greek wines, and then like maybe every 6 months I revisit it, or like I taste one and I'm like, oh my God, why have I forgotten like how delicious these are? And like some of the wines that stick out to me like are so memorable in my like wine repertoire are Greek wines. Like they just challenge you but excite you, and you're like, I've never had anything that tastes like this in my whole life, which is not necessarily what everyone's trying to achieve in the wine world. Everyone's a lot of people are trying to emulate or mimic a style, or recapture by it. It's very rare that you get a wine that is its own thing and like actually unique, and like that's a really cool experience. You're not trying to pick apart subtleties of the same varietal. You just go, boom, this is the coolest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Let's taste some wine.
Yes, let's do it.
Wine number one, everyone, put in the glass. This is I'm very hesitant about this wine. I personally, this is one of the only styles of wine that I don't enjoy at all. But this is Retsina, a very iconic wine, Greek wine. This is a absolutely drinkable and delicious Retsina. Every time I pour this for other people, I'm personally surprised how much they enjoy it. But it's a nice feeling because that's not always the case with Retsina. Sometimes it comes across as, not well made, very like single-handed, very clunky. But this, I can appreciate good winemaking, and I know that there's really great winemaking in this. Emily, you've got it in your glass. You're giving it a swell. Like, what's some of your impressions of this wine?
Kind of just like, if I know that it is something all on its own, but if I can equate it to someone, if someone was watching this and didn't have it in their glass, I would say like kind of this example of Retsina kind of reminds me of Sauvignon Blanc with a little more body. Like it has that like pine resin sort of thing that I expect from Retsina, but I just find it like entirely drinkable.
Yeah.
And
it's very surprising. I mean, in a good way.
A little bit lighter on its feet. But yeah.
Krista, what's your impressions of this? And what is your, like, you've probably had it in Greece, I imagine. Right?
I am a Retsina cheerleader on this call today. I know there are so many bad examples, and a lot of our, let's say, like parents, when they went to Greece in the 70s, they really got burned by drinking shitty Retsina, and so it's developed this really bad reputation. But it is such a historical way of making wine, and I'm really down with how a lot of winemakers now are reviving Retsina and making it a maybe more drinkable, less like floor cleaner smelling wine, and having a more kind of delicate Aleppo pine energy to the wine. And if we were all in a taverna in Greece, which I wish we were, we would be drinking this with like crispy calamari and like a million other great dishes, and like some old guys would be singing a song, and it would be like quite a wonderful experience. But I feel like now that the weather is warming up, we can like hopefully recreate that experience here soon with this wine.
Agree. And I think that this is definitely, without food, you're only seeing like half of what Retsina is capable of. We're seeing what's in the glass, but I think in context with food and drinking it with delicious calamari, anything really, I think you would have a completely different impression of this wine. So I'm glad everyone's liking it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I agree entirely. It's just like light and refreshing.
For those who don't know what Retsina is, so Retsina is Savatiano, which is the name of the grape varietal. It's a really traditional, very unusual style of wine where they infuse pine resin of the Aleppo pine during or before the fermentation process, which the flavor infuses into the wine, and then they remove the pine resin and they make a wine. Historically, it's because the amphora or the vessels that they use to hold this wine in, they would seal it to prevent it spilling with pine resin as a way of like keeping the lid onto the vessel. And over time, that pine resin infused into the wine, and that's where this style sort of was created historically. But it is a protected style of wine in Greece. And it is a very traditional and really cool experience. Not all Retsinas are created equal. Some, like Krista said, are, as with anything like oak, like, any addition to wine, sweetness, all these kinds of things that you can like change a wine, you can often use it to like hide imperfections and hide, less, less than good winemaking. And so that has often been the category that Retsina used to sit in. But like Krista said, there are some really great winemakers trying to champion this style and like bring it back. And this is completely different to the other Retsinas that I've had. This is so drinkable, so light on its feet. The resin flavor sort of adds a tannin structure, adds texture to the wine. And the flavors are very in keeping with Sauvignon Blanc and like those mint and those like, you know, very aromatic qualities.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Like I said, I personally don't think I could drink a bottle, let alone a glass. It's just not my cup of tea. It kind of tastes like toothpaste. It kind of tastes like toothpaste and wine mixed together, and I don't like that. But I absolutely see that doesn't mean that the wine's bad. It just means my tastes are somewhat like tarnished. I don't know. I'm a bit biased. Maybe I had a bad experience.
Been burned.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's super cheap. This is like $23, $24 at the bottle shop. And I think this is a really neat example. And I have a map. I actually made a map today. So I'm going to show where in Retsina is from, well, this Retsina is from Attica. So the Athens is just here. Attica is the region where Athens is kind of situated. And it is made by Milanos, which is just in this region here. And that's super exciting. So it is like, if you think about Athens as the metropolis, one of the metropolises of Greece, you can see that this style is probably very common, was very common in these urban environments where it was easy drinking, traditional, you know, traveled well, probably. Super cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else they want to share about Retsina before we move on to like things I kind of want to drink?
Hopefully, like the longest I've
This
ever
is a
talked
strong
about.
tasting.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bit shady today, but yeah. But that's just because there's Retsina. There's only one. It is what it is.
It's great. I really like this a lot.
Wine number 2. Also, we have 5 wines to go through, and we're 15 minutes down. We gotta chat and fast. This is fun. I was really when I was putting this wine tasting together. There's not a huge amount of Greek wine on the market, or available at any one specific time. And so you kind of just like cast a wide net and you just bring in whatever you can. And this was one of those wines. I know this winery really well. Their Houfenleur skin contact wine is like phenomenal. But they also have this Moscow Filero, and the winemaker is Troupis, and they're based in the Peloponnese. And this was the only wine that they had available. And I was like, cool, Moscow Filero. This is going to be super fun and delicious. And I'd never had it before. And man, I was so surprised by the price. This is like $23. And like, you don't need to drink Pinot Grigio when you've got wines like this, like at hand. Like, so delicious. I just like that sweet, fragrant, like blossom florality. It's so enticing. Krista, what are your thoughts on this delicious wine?
This is so pretty. I've been to this area and this winery, and it was really exciting. It's like quite beautiful, like high altitude plateau, like so mountainy, not at all what we expect of Greece when we see the islands. It's quite green and beautiful. And we tasted like we tasted a shit ton of Moscow Fileros, and they all have this like really beautiful floral rosy flavor, like aroma in common that was so distinctive and so pretty. I feel like it's like if you made Pinot Grigio a really like beautiful fresh wine.
It's so good.
So
Yeah.
good.
It is so good.
Emily, what, for example, to like, put you on the spot, like what are some foods that would go with this? Like, is this a barbecue food? Like this, I feel this is a very versatile wine, but I would love your impressions.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's super versatile as well. And, you could pair it with a number of foods. It has that like super salty, chalky thing going on, but it also has a little bit of phenolic bitterness, that little bit of like bite on your palate after you've tasted it, like that little bit of drying factor. So, I mean, the one thing, but I think you could pair this with a number of seafood forward dishes or vegetable dishes, as long as the veggies weren't bitter, because bitter is just going to make bitter fly through the roof. But I think it's super food friendly, and I also don't know if it needs food at all. It's just like a nice little hot day patio sipper. But yeah, Nick, tell me, how's it going with that feta life you're living?
Oh,
over
yeah, my
there?
feta life. Well, I eat my feta and my Moscow Filero. Krista, as someone who's probably the most experienced in us three about Greek or Moscow Filero, is this typical of what you would expect if you saw this at the LCBO and you saw a Moscow Filero, not maybe this one, or at a wine shop? Is this kind of what people are going to get in the glass?
This is a very good example, but it's a really typical Muscofilero. Like it has all the qualities, like that bitterness, like Emily said, and that like beautiful florality, and it's just like fresh and easy, and would go with any like fresh vegetable or like a good park hang.
Yeah, exactly. It's like pair it with environment.
Yeah, this is delicious. And like I said, they also make this, Tropus also make this really cool skin contact wine called Hoof and Lure. I can put in the chat. I think is that correct? I think I'm remembering that right.
I mean, this grape, kind of like Pinot Grigio, has some color to it. So if you let it sit on its skins for a minute, it gets that kind of not orange wine color, but that like gris color. So it's almost like a beautiful rosé, but it's just like a textured white wine, and it's so fun and so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that Hoof and Lure. It's a skin contact, so it's got a little bit more texture. It's a little higher in price point, but when you see it around, like it's so delicious. I remember having it at Grey Gardens. Jake suggested it, and I was like, I would never have picked that on the wine list. And I was so glad he suggested it. It comes in very small quantities, but if you see it around, like grab a bottle of it. You are not going to be disappointed. And I think it's a really good step up of both quality, but like in an adjacent style, like adding a little skin contact sort of deepens the aromas. There's already really a lot of texture on this wine, so you're going to get more of that. And it's not super expensive either. So I'm kind of excited by this.
Yeah. It's a great example.
$23, like wine shouldn't, like if I got a $23 Pinot Grigio, that's pretty on point. But this is delivering more than I would want, like I would expect from a wine at that price point, And I think that's kind of the motto with these first three wines is, they should be a lower price point. You should be getting like low 20s, high teens. And I think that should give you a little bit more freedom to be a little bit more curious and to try something new. And I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think Greek importers, Greek winemakers don't want to be, showcasing bad Greek wine. I think people really there's a real demand to like reinvigorate that the Greek wine market and like show what it's capable of. And when we get to the last two wines, I think that's where I will like really like push that point home, because the last two wines are like iconic once in a lifetime wines. And, but to get there, you got to try some other things and practice your pronunciation. I said Moscow Filero, which is completely a garbage pronunciation, but you know,
We do our best.
garbage boy. So I actually remember, this is funny, back at Song Factory when we were teaching the Greek wine class, I think it's in this one of the classes, and we talk about there was 4 classic Greek varietals. I had to like spell them out to myself, and I vividly recall writing out Moscow Figaro, writing out Iotico, writing out these like phonetically, so I would just like keep them in my brain. And I still remember doing that, and I will never. I mean, Iotico is probably the hardest wine grape to like pass and like understand how to say it. The others are a mouthful, but you can kind of play it out. But once you get Iotico, you're golden. You're gonna like the Greek world will be your oyster.
No, it's true. It's like, I love the wines, but I'm running away because I don't know how to say anything properly. But
That's why you just point.
You
You
break
just
it
gotta
down.
point.
If you Google Greek wine grape pronunciation or something like that, you can definitely find speakers saying the grapes correctly. And I'll never get it, but I'm hoping to get a little closer soon.
But just like, you know, you kind of just, we're all in the same boat. Unless we have Greek heritage or we can speak Greek or a language similar, like we're gonna make a mess of these grape varietal names and like the producers' names, and you just kind of have to like acknowledge that and like try and be better. But like, you know, don't let it stop you buying the wines. The wines are too good, and I don't think the winemakers would rather you not buy their wine. They'd rather you to mess up their pronunciation of the varietal of their name than not drink the wine. So, you know, gotta live in that. I mean, as an Australian, having to like focus on pronouncing French wine names and like French pronunciation, I'm horrible at it. And, you know, take it from me, you kind of just have to get over it and expect people to correct you. Like every Canadian does, every Canadian song has ever done it all the time when I mispronounce something. But that's just me. 2 for 2. I'm kind of happy. These wines are well, like I will go on the record to say these are the cheapest ones I've ever poured at Wine Coach, and these are drinking like you wouldn't. That's not what I expected. You know, and I'm so glad that I got to share them with everyone because, you know, a big part of exploring a new wine region, if you haven't, is price points. And, you know, Greece should be some of the easiest, I think. Wine number 3, Em's in it. She's like, let's go. I've got
Wine number
spanakopita in the oven. I'm really hungry. Let's go.
Not at all. Not at all.
Wine number 3. Mylonos, we're going back to the same producer as the first one, the Retsina, and we're having their like varietal wine, the Savatiano. Is that, oh, Chris is gone.
She'll be back.
And this is I'm putting it in the thing. This is a push. Yeah, this is like the next, this is like a little step up. This is about $30 a bottle at the wine shop. And this is the grape varietal that is in the Retsina. And again, it's from the Attica region. So hello.
I'm back.
Welcome back. We're on wine 5. We pushed through.
I knew it. You said to go fast and you've just been guzzling.
Emily, what's your impressions of this wine? What do we got?
Oh, first
What are you feeling?
impressions are
The color is so deep. Like,
yeah, I know.
that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, wow, this is like, you know, it feels richer. Oh. That drink's great.
Oh my gosh. It's super good.
Kind of like unoaked Chardonnay, kind of like great texture, a little bitterness on the palate. Obviously going to be great with food.
Oh my gosh, I really like this.
It's got a cute little birdie on the label. Like, I mean, you can't go wrong.
There's a theme.
Actually, I remember, this is my story about this one. I remember drinking this at Midfield many, many years ago when Krista and Nicole, the Grape Witches, were doing a Greek wine at is it the Common?
The Common, yeah.
Mm. And I remember going to Midfield and I was like, what Greek wines do you have? And I guess Giuseppe, who else could it be? Was like, I'll have this one. And so I had it. I remember drinking a bottle of this before then. We walked up a block north and hung out with a cool Greek wine maker that I completely forgot what the wines were or who it was. But I remember it was like the second Grape Witches event I'd ever been to.
It was a Karabatakis from Crete.
That's
what a
cool.
cutie.
Yeah, he was a cutie.
There is tons of texture on this wine.
Mhm.
Wow.
It's so stone fruity. Like you're getting that like ripe white peach nectarine. And I get that earthiness as too, though they were talking in the chat. I'm mad at this one. Not mad at all. It's opening up as well. I think it was a little cold, but yeah.
I feel like Savatiano sometimes gets classed as like a neutral white wine, but there's nothing neutral about this. Like this is a full and interesting and like complex wine. It's pretty fascinating.
And it's like ripe. It's got some ripeness to it without being sweet or being like, again, it's like also, 12.5%. Like it's a solid medium bodied wine. You're getting lots of like richness, but without like over like super alcohol. It's not sweet. It's got, delicious qualities.
Yeah.
I could pour this to like a Cali Chard drinker and they'd be like, oh, the color, like visually, they'd be like, oh, this is going to be exactly what I want.
Absolutely.
Which it is.
Yeah.
Emily, what were you going to say? Sorry to interrupt.
No, I was just going to add to what you were saying, and that like, it's just the alcohol isn't elevated. It's a medium bodied wine, but it's so textural, like with all of that like viscosity, and it's just showing really well too, I think.
This is such a good wine. What is going on? Again, obviously I don't know a lot about Greece or Greek wines. So I don't have a lot of like background, but like, I forgot how much I like drinking this wine. It's super delish.
Yeah.
$30.
Like almond oil on the palate. I just love it. It's great.
Someone mentioned Sharon did a fresh pool floaty smell. I get that. I get that smell of the air as you inflate a pool floaty and then the air goes back in your face and you're like, that like plasticky, which as an Australian who loves Riesling, someone who loves Australian Riesling, I'm not mad at that smell.
I was actually thinking that of like speaking to the Claire and Eden for you, my pal.
But like structurally also, this wine's really great. Like it is fresh, it is dry, medium bodied, nothing. It's very balanced. I think that texture, that bitterness, like the texture, the phenolicness on the palate, sort of adding a layer of complexity. The color is just super cool. You kind of sort of makes you want to think oak, makes you want to think like it's bigger than it is, and it kind of drinks fresh.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check my my new book, Big Macs and Burgundy, to see if Vanessa pairs it with anything. I feel like this is a wine that she could put on her thing. No Savatiano. No problem. I know the Moscow Filero is on there, so we'll check back on the book to see. Oh, I should do my feta test.
Nick, what junk food though would you pair with this one? Sam wants to know.
What was that sound? Wow.
He's had his chance on here before. I really just wanted to prove that the lighting was better in our apartment than he actually usually sets himself up.
Oh, that's the raw one. As he just progressively was in pitch black, and all you could see was that little cat light glinting in the background. Yeah.
Okay, I did see a food pairing just come up in the chat, which I love the idea from Carrie. Sour cream and onion chips. Let's
Yes.
go, Carrie. I love that.
That's absolutely a good idea. This is like such a great book, and it comes across as junk food and wine pairings, but like it's not. It's just like everyday food, that you would normally drink or eat. Food you would normally like, be it going to McDonald's or like having candy or chips or snacks, but with like real thoughtful pairings, like a book that is trying to pair Moscow Malagusia with an everyday food. Like that's not something, some kind of marketing firm has just kind of like thrown together to like capture, make a couple of mil. Like this is a really cool book. So maybe I'll do a wine pairing with like a session based, like inspired by this one, and like just order everyone cheeseburgers, and we'll just eat cheeseburgers in Burgundy, I guess, or Big Macs, I guess. But,
Good idea.
And it's available in your shop.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we've got his relationship with Flying Books, which is an independent book label, but also helps source books, because as I don't know if anyone's in the publishing industry, it is impossible to navigate. I tried to like order wholesale books. It is completely a mystery to me. I just didn't know how to do it. So thankfully we partnered with Flying Books, and Martha, who runs it, is able to like source any book I want. So we got like, the latest Wine Atlas, which Oxford Wine Atlas by Jancis and Hugh, which is wonderful. We got this cool book, some cocktail books. Anyway, I'm just like side hustle here, but it's a cool idea, and like, it's supporting an independent like company as well, which I think is fun. And they're all the prices are exactly the same as you would on Amazon. So I got Amazon. Okay, now we're into like the big boys and girls. No gender, it's just big people. Wines. Wine number 4. I have such a like romance with this wine. Everything about it is like, if you want to be able to sell me wine, sell me old vine, unusual varietal, nearly went extinct by some like one person saves it. Like you've hit it. Like I'll just buy bucket loads of this wine. I think Krista, this is the first bottle of wine you ever ordered at Peter Pan was the bottle of this wine.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's true. This is probably the first bottle of wine I ordered for Byblos when I started working there too. It was just so special and delicious, and a real like thing unlike any other. Yeah.
So this is, I know a little bit more about this wine, so I can sort of wax lyrical. So this grape varietal was virtually extinct. A lecturer, I forget his name, I apologize, for a university, he found this grape in the middle of a vineyard somewhere, and he pulled it out, propagated it, created a little vineyard. Vangelis, I think his name is, Gervasiliou, the maker of this wine, he and this wine professor sort of made a decision to like plant these wines and make an actual like commercial wine out of this. And Gervasiliou is credited as like reviving this wine and like putting it on the world stage. Early 2000s, this was voted like one of the greatest white wines in the world. It's old vine. It's from in Macedonia, up North Macedonia, Thessalonica. Epony is just up here in this little peninsula here. It's such an unusual wine. It's one of those wines that when I pour it for people, I say, look, you'll have never tasted a wine like this before. It doesn't taste like Riesling. It doesn't taste like a weird Chardonnay. It's not. It's completely its own thing. And don't acknowledge that as you taste it to go, oh, I've never if you'll feel very unfamiliar with every kind of flavor combination in this wine, but it's so good. Kind of aromatic in a good way, in like delish.
Yep.
This is 2019 vintage. I wish I had like an older vintage to see how this kind of wine ages. Krista, have you ever had old vintages of this wine before?
No, I always think about aging it as well. I think I maybe like had the 17 recently, and that was my last bottle. It's something that I just like think that I'll age, and then I just drink it because it's so delicious. But it's so special. It's like peachy, and like it sounds weird to say oily, but it has that like viscosity that is so unusual for like somms who are used to just drinking like crispy, high acid white wines.
Yeah, it's so true. It is so true. And a good example of florality, I think. Like, so easy to find flowers in every form in a wine, but I find this is like very, very floral.
In a way that's evocative and not overpowering, like in sometimes Gewürztraminer can do, where you're just assaulted by flowers, whereas this is kind of more of a caress of flowers. Emily, what are your thoughts on this one? Have you ever had this before? Have you familiar with this one?
I am, not to the extent that you both are, but I am familiar with the wine. And I've always really liked it as it's hard to say classic because I haven't had that many examples of the grape variety, but like, I think that it is an example that you can safely pour and say, this is what you can expect.
It's kind of smoky as well. It's got this like smoky charm sort of in the nose, like you dig through the aroma and you get this like cigar, almost like a weed smell as well, like marijuana kind of thing going on. Not mad at it. Okay, I absolutely am confident there's Malagousia in this one. Macedonia Malagousia.
For them not included.
Okay, what do we think? What you get? What do you think the pairing is? I'll give you a clue. It's a breakfast food. It's a brunch item in the brunch chapter.
Oh. I'm not much of a bruncher, but would definitely have this. Yeah.
What? Wait, no, shut the talk down. Krista doesn't like brunch.
I like long, luxurious lunches with wine that last until dinner. You know, like everyone else.
I did not know that about you.
All my
Okay.
here.
It's Eggs Benedict. For everyone guessed it. I don't know how. Or they've already read this book, which is fine.
Oh, I don't know.
Cheating, so.
I mean, yeah.
She goes on. One, I'm not reading off this book, but buy the book, read it. It's really interesting. And she says, yeah.
I mean,
says a lot about it. There's like literally a whole page on Malagousia and Eggs Benedict. Like who writes a whole page on? Who isn't Jancis Robinson writes a whole page on Malagousia? Is
it about like the pairing with hollandaise? I'm just curious. But I can just get the book, but I don't really know. This isn't like the first wine I would reach for if I was going to have a drink at, I don't know, like what time do you brunch? 12?
Yeah, there's 4 paragraphs. The first 3 about Malagousia, and the 4th paragraph is the pairing and why it works and why it doesn't work. So that's
okay, cool. Well, I mean,
what's brunch anymore? I mean, I haven't brunched in here.
Yeah.
I just like this wine. I think you should see this wine in really good places. I can't imagine you wouldn't. Especially places featuring on Greek and Mediterranean wines. I like this. This is one of the most iconic Greek white wines. I've been sort of focusing on this a lot. And I've been mentioning this a lot. Like, this is a wine I would pour any winemaker in the world, and they'd be so happy to drink this and so interested and so excited to try like a wine like this. And I think that's a category of wine I need to explore when we see winemakers again, and like actually test that theory. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I like as it is a subcategory of wines I recommend because this is like if Cristiano Tiberio came to Peter Pan, like I would pour this and there'd be such curiosity from a winemaking standpoint as to what this grape is, what it flavors is. And I think that's something, I really enjoy thinking about, like what would a fellow winemaker like be inspired to drink by, not just by price point and like how fancy and rare this Burgundy is, but like a really curious one.
We should all keep Cristiano Tiberio in mind. Like, what would Cristiano Tiberio do? He also loves a long lunch. Curious about wine. Yeah, definitely. We'll get that bracelet made.
Absolutely. Happy to do that anytime. Channel our inner.
Absolutely. Thankfully, for those who love Cristiano Tiberio wines, the Cerasuolo just dropped. It should be almost everywhere by now. If that's your favorite rosé, Cerasuolo d'Abruzzo, if that's your favorite rosé of the summer, like now is the time to suck it up. It's going to be great. There's nothing like a Cerasuolo summer. I can tell you that much. It's such a perfect rosé. We're not talking about rosés. I don't know if I'll do a rosé class.
What?
No, I won't do a rosé class. I never.
What do you mean?
I actually once did a wines of summer class. It was probably I think Anne maybe it was there. I did 3 years ago. I did like wines of summer, and obviously filled up in like, I don't know, 45, 50 seconds. And I was like, I poured 0 rosés. It was all Lambrusco. It was all like Lambrusco, chilled reds. It was an amazing experience. And I was like, hope you didn't expect rosé.
Emily and I will do a rosé class. And we'll
You do a rosé class.
Yeah, Krista and I immediately started a side chat like, okay, so we've been friends with Nick for a long time. Like, how well do you know Nick now?
I mean, I just found out Krista doesn't eat brunch.
Okay, we're doing
You're perfect, Krista.
Cristiano Tiberio.
Great.
And hopefully come visit.
That's it. Cerasuolo isn't a rosé. Don't ever tell a Cerasuolo producer that you love their rosé because they'll be like, it's not rosé, it's Cerasuolo. That's a hot take, but I just want to share with everyone.
Okay.
A Lambrusco class would be great. Maybe in person. Maybe we'll like do a patio wine coach where we can, because I can't pouch. I don't know. I haven't figured out the secret of pouching sparkling wines. If anyone does, they're never going to share that secret. So,
Nope.
What's lit? I'm not going to. Sam's flexing in the chat. That's fine.
You're not wrong. We have to go. Another great Greek wine grape to know about.
Okay. Wine number 5, everyone. This has flown by. For 5 wines, this is like a good clip, but also lots of chat and lots of like, these wines are so delicious. Oh
my gosh.
I hope there are some people in the audience who like, this is their first time drinking Greek wine. They're super curious. Like, I hope you've having such a great time because I'm having a great time and I've tasted lots of Greek wine. This is very pleasure inducing, such a beautiful occasion. And I hope like for someone who's never had it before, this is like opening up all these doors, windows. I don't know what the saying is. Brightening up your lockdown. Yeah, these are pretty cool. Okay, wine number 5. Assyrtiko. The wine that, soon to be classic wine of the world. No, that's quartermaster sommelier speak. But Assyrtiko. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Krista's frozen. Oh, poor Krista.
Yeah.
It's a terrible phrasing. It's not Gaia.
No.
We want to say Gaia. We want to say, because Gaia is a very famous Barbaresco producer, it's better to just get Gaia out of your head and say, yeah. Because if you say, I'm bringing a bottle of Gaia to the dinner party, certain specific people that you may or may not hang around will think you're bringing a very different one.
Yes.
Not that this isn't a really special one. This is a very special one. But Yaya is how you pronounce it, which is also Greek for grandmother. I learned from a Greek family I did a Greek wine tasting with last weekend. But this is super fun. Did I put in the chat? Yeah. This is, I don't know. Tell me, Emily, hit us with some tasting notes. Impressions, opinions.
Oh, this is the wild ferment, to be clear, right? Yeah. This is easily one of my favorite wines that I truly pair with like some of my favorite dining experiences in Toronto. Like if it's on a list somewhere, it usually hits at a really nice price point and I'm usually wanting to order it. So this one speaks like, I don't know, I just like, it makes me miss restaurants and just really just like reinstates how much I love this wine to just be smelling it again. I've not even like tasted it yet, but I don't know. That wasn't a tasting note. That was just a thank you, Nick.
No, that's fine. It doesn't need to be a tasting note.
Okay.
I think
I
emphatic recommendation is better than a tasting note will ever be.
Yeah.
Krista, I feel like you may be familiar with this wine or have a lot of experience with this wine. You know, what's your journey in the world of Santorini, Assyrtiko, AR, all this delicious, delicious goodness?
Well, I mean, this is both like a great Assyrtiko, but also an unconventional Assyrtiko. Like it's quite oaky. I think it has like oak and acacia and like maybe just, more wood than you'd expect on a like crispy, salty Greek Assyrtiko that you like drank on your honeymoon a few years ago. It's like quite a powerful wine. It has all that like acidity that Assyrtiko is known for and saltiness, but then it has this like broad-shouldered power that the oak gives it in such a nice balance that I think ages really well. That this is a real gateway wine for a lot of people who are afraid of Greek wine. It has maybe so much in common with like a fancy oaked Chablis or like a beautiful Burgundy with that like acidity and power and like maybe slightly higher alcohol, but like tons of freshness that I think could really dazzle someone who is like, I don't want to try a Greek wine. That seems a little too crazy for me. I tried Vetsina once. This is like a dream gateway wine for me.
Yeah.
Assyrtiko has like, is structurally unusual wine in like my brain because it is high acid, but also elevated alcohol. And so that's what it always has this high piercing acidity and it retains its acidity. And that's why it can have, like we're talking about how unusual it is to see oak use, but because it has acidity, but also like elevated alcohol, it can kind of handle a bit of oak to like broaden it out and flesh it out because it doesn't feel clunky with it. It's not feel like fake. Doesn't feel like forced. The oak use doesn't feel forced. And I think that's really interesting because this isn't in any way a typical Assyrtiko. You know, it is usually much fresher, unoaked, very crisp, very similar to like you know, the other wines we've had. And upon my research, I learned that Assyrtiko is used in a lot of blends to like boost these wines up, which can tend to be, as we saw, you know, 12.5% alcohol. So like Assyrtiko helps, you know, bring a bit more oomph to these wines in blends, especially Malagousia and Savatiano. But it's really interesting to see like the top, like Yaya is one of the top, Hatzidakis is another, like these high-end producers that they're not just like charging a lot of money for like a single vineyard, but like they're using winemaking to justify $70 bottle of Greek wine is very, very unusual, but, you get to see that it is super capable. And I like that, like comparison to like an Oak Chablis. Like Oak Chablis sounds very strange. They exist, but when you see that, you like, they mesh really well together. I'm going to have it with feta.
Mm. Also, I think it's worth noting that Santorini is like a smallish island, and space is
Ah.
scarce, and vineyards are scarce, and wines are getting more and more expensive, of course, because land is hard to find, and these old like volcanic vines are so special and rare.
Yeah, if you actually look up like vines specific to Assyrtiko and Santorini, you can look up like the Stefani like trellising systems, those little like bush trellising systems, which are really, really cool and very, very specific.
And it is a very special place.
Yeah.
Probably volcanic soils. I don't imagine it not being volcanic soils when you talk about the Aegean Sea. So, I hope you've had, in the audience, you've had an Assyrtiko before. This is I don't even think I would have normally bought this wine even for the wine shop if it wasn't for like doing a Greek tasting and to like really like find the top example. I'm interested to try the Hatzidakis. It's out of stock right now. He's another tie-in producer. And just like explore that level, because Assyrtiko is like probably the closest to hitting that kind of world recognition, iconic wine of the world, like classic, in all testable for the Soms out there. Assyrtiko is almost there where you should be able to like know it and understand it because it is iconic and unique and defines, lives in its own world. It doesn't compare to other wines, and I think it's a super special. What was everyone's favorite wine? Emily, did you have one that kind of like stood out for you or like surprised you, pleasant or otherwise?
Well, I'm going to stay with the Yaya Wild Ferment is my favorite wine. I mean, I went in kind of knowing that I was just super excited to revisit it. But a new exciting development, I guess, would tasting a Rizzina I really, really love. And then the Savatiano I really enjoyed as well. I guess those two have a lot in common. But how about you, Krista?
These were all bangers.
I know, I agree. I was like, that was tough, but
amazing. I mean, I love the Yaya Wild Ferment, of course, but the Machafilero and the Malagazia are both such like pleasures and so totally different. So they're really exciting. I'm like, I wouldn't say no to any of these wines.
I know, I agree with you. It was like an incredible lineup and really great examples of the grape, I think.
You're welcome.
Experience. Thank you.
I'm having this Kalamata olive with Assyrtiko, completely changed. It's crazy. It's like mellow, rich, rounds, such a different wine. If you have this Assyrtiko, if you're in the shop, buy a bottle of it, buy some Kalamata olives with it. Hot pairing. Just my hot take. Better than the cheese, which was feta. I have so much feta in my house. The Greek family I did a wine tasting with on the weekend, they brought this big lump of feta, shared it with me so that I could like snack with them. Oh my God, so much feta. And I miss feta. Like I just miss everything about that cheese. It is one of it's such a beautiful cheese.
I might do a drive-by of your house tomorrow, Nick.
Oh yeah, there's like half a
we
kilo.
know where you live, Nick.
The Assyrtiko drinks like, and I not to be reductive, drinks like a Burgundy. Like it drinks like beautiful Burgundy when you have it with an olive. That's crazy. I wish I could actually, if I do another food and wine pairing, I'm gonna like lock this in and share this with everyone because so cool. So cool. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out. This has flown by.
I have no idea.
This is the fastest wine coach. It feels like the fastest wine coach. Usually it's like Sam Allinson's in my ear, like wah 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 wah, and like.
Don't worry, he's still in mine. I can hear him like laughing.
I'm kidding. But next week we've got red wines of Greece, some Iotico, some Zino Mavra, something else I can't remember. It's going to be fun, exciting. I don't know who's going to host with me. Maybe Emily and Krista are still free on Tuesday and they want to come and hang out and drink some red wines. So that's super exciting. And then we're going to Whole Cluster Heroes. We're tasting some Whole Cluster Pinot Noir, which I'm super excited about. Some Dujac, some Christum, my favorite by far. I roped Jacob into adding the Big Head Hot Raw Pinot Noir to the lineup. He's terrified, but we'll do it blind. I think we might do it blind and we won't know and we'll just drink them all. I will know and I will make sure that every wine is fairly represented and we're not ranking them and we're just like having fun with it. This is a safe space for co-hosts and audience, but also winemakers. They should feel safe, being featured on Wine Coach. But I hope everyone had fun. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, friends.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in the chat. That was really fun. It was fun.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
This was, like I said, I was kind of sleepy around like half an hour ago, like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And now I'm like ready to go. I'm gonna taste some sake tonight with some Vancouver peeps. And then I'm going to go to Betty Buzz. But thanks everyone. Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Brad, for delivering some
Yes, thank you,
tips
Brad.
to everyone. And we'll see. And we'll see everyone next week. We'll see you in the shop. See you somewhere, Instagram, whatever. Have a lovely evening. Enjoy the rest.